Hey there, pilots. Today we're going to talk about the F-99 Shrike aircraft mod by Arix. This aircraft has I would call, superficial resemblance to the F-18 Hornet, though it's an aircraft for a different kind of mission. The Hornet is a multi-role fighter bomber that is capable of performing a whole bunch of different flexible operations. The F-99 is not multi-role. It does have a few ground strike options, but this aircraft's mission is primarily focused on rapid response interception. It has phenomenal acceleration, good handling at moderate airspeeds. It doesn't really do well when you're going slow because you don't get thrust vectoring, but it's made to be cheap, off the ground as quickly as possible, can be supported by some aircraft carriers, but is more or less a ground asset. You're going to see it more commonly deployed from forward airfields. You need the full-sized Arix aircraft carrier, I'm pretty sure, to get this thing off the ground. But it does have an optional tailhook, which is not available by default. You have to enable it manually, which just kind of emphasizes what this aircraft is primarily made to do. Sit at forward airfields, ready to rock and roll, launch on scramble. It's not really a very good patrol fighter. It doesn't have a lot of fuel endurance. If you're willing to fly it slowly, it can loiter for a while. But like the F-16, this thing is made to pop up and hit a target and then land. So it's biased towards defensive use, especially with a higher RCS. The F-99 does not really have stealth capability, and its countermeasures are limited. So you're not going to be able to reach past enemy lines very deep. You're more or less going to be protecting strategic facilities or any kind of forward asset that has air defenses. Because you have unbaffled afterburners and no stealth signature, you're going to get harried by every missile launcher on the ground, and you're going to be exposed to a lot of the stealth aircraft in the air. So the F-99 does not fare well alone. At 35 million, it's really easy for teams to pull multiples of these. So you should expect to be flying with friendly support or providing support to other friendly aircraft. While the F-99 does not loiter very well, it does make a great escort to supplement your bombers. So long as the F-99 can stay near its logistical center, it is a very powerful aircraft. It can land and take off reasonably quickly for its size and shape. And its acceleration traits are easily the best in the game, except for maybe the Eclipse. But the F-99 does not do well at high altitudes. Since it lacks stealth, it's very vulnerable to long-range missile attacks. Now, unlike most of the aircraft in the game, I actually haven't found a reason to modify the base loadout. This is actually a really good, balanced air-to-air loadout, further emphasizing the intended use case for this aircraft. You do have a few other options you can throw on. Most of them are bombs, but if you're willing to commit your weapon bay, you can go up to a PAB 250. I think if you empty the weapon bay, your centerline pylon comes available, and you can take a CBO 400 or a GPO 500. The CBO is a mod weapon, so you're not going to see it in vanilla games, but the GPO, the ARAD, and all of these other aircraft here or all these other weapons here on offer are available in vanilla nuclear option, with the GPO 500 being the highest yield weapon that the Shrike can carry, technically, and then you've got a cruise missile available. I haven't seen an AGM-99 alone strike a target very well unless the air defenses have been fully suppressed. A single AGM-99 is pretty vulnerable, so just keep that in mind. Most of the time you're going to fly this aircraft with its default configuration, or if you want to bring some more missiles, you can trade capacity for a lower yield weapon. You can get more capacity with a lower yield weapon by using IRMS-2s. But this gives you 4 AAM-29 scythes and then 4 IRMS-2s for a balanced loadout. In multiplayer, if you happen to be on a server that supports it, this will give you the ability to get 3 or 4 kills if you're pairing up your missiles. In single player, you can actually get a lot of work done with 4 scythes and 4 IRMs. You just got to be aware of your positioning because you don't have a lot of ammo, put it that way. You've got enough to be a threat, People are going to see you coming and they're going to want to deal with you, and that means that you can become the focus for a short period of time. But to fly the Shrike well, you've got to be flying pretty aggressively, using your speed where you can. But keep in mind, every second you spend with the hammer down, you've got 2 afterburning engines, you're going to cook your fuel reserves very quickly. So I'm going to demonstrate some of this for you. We're in terminal control, which I prefer for the F-99 Shrike because it's fast enough. This map gives you the ability to open the taps and really fly the Shrike aggressively. You can kind of do that on Homeland, but terrain and all of the high altitude missile launchers are going to kind of lock you down a little bit and keep you pretty well constrained. Both maps you're going to use similar tactics, but the terminal control gives you a little bit more time to think about what you want to do and how you want to fly, which is better for demonstration purposes because it gives me more opportunities to talk you through some of the characteristics of the Shrike. On the ground, it handles okay. It's not as tippy as the F-16, so you can get rolling about 50 kilometers an hour. I wouldn't go any faster than that. But even at 35, if you decide you're going to jerk the wheel like this, you're going to find that it gets a little unstable. So just pay attention to that. Ground handling traits are pretty good. I expected this thing to want to flip over pretty easy, but once you get out on the runway and you open up those twin afterburners, this thing hauls ass. It's impressive, but not in a way that breaks its interactions with the other aircraft. You can really lay into this thing. With the afterburners on full, you can pull really hard and maintain pretty decent control, even being able to pull some flips at lower altitudes. I'm using my air brake to supplement this flip. We're getting down around 460 kilometers per hour, but when I open up that afterburner, we accelerate hard. We're up to 6, 7, and then 8. This thing climbs like a beast. It feels very similar to the Eclipse, but you even got a little bit more twitchy controls because you have a short, fixed wing set. You do have to be careful. I'm getting up high where higher altitude missiles can be a problem, but on terminal control, you're spread out enough that you actually have some breathing room. But in just about a minute of aggressive flying, we've cooked 15% of our fuel. We're down to 84%. So if you're going to fly long distances, it can help to bump yourself up to about 5,000 meters. I would not fly any higher than that in this aircraft because you need time to be able to get to ground if you get targeted by a high altitude system. More than 5,000 meters puts you at risk from multiple missile engagements. In multiplayer, if you're flying up high in a non-stealth aircraft, you're probably going to catch at least one or two missiles before you can get to ground. And that's going to test your defenses pretty much to the limit. If you want to run your ECM, you got to be on full throttle because you cook that ECM in about 5 or 6 seconds, you're down to half capacitor power. And once you get down here into the yellow, you're not going to be beating missiles anymore. You're going to be taking all of the damage. We're getting close to where I want to be setting up my engagement, so I'm going to get low. I'm running at half throttle because I'm expecting S1 launchers to put some test shots off onto me. We're going to start picking our targets. We do have a yellow mark on radar, so about right here is where I'm going to get down low, and I'm going to avoid higher altitudes as long as I can see that yellow line because I want to be able to use ground clutter alongside my notches to provide a better chance for survival. We've got a TA-30 compass coming in off our 12 o'clock. I'm going to go nose hot. He's not paying much attention. I'm going to put off one side, and then as we close, I'm going to queue up an IRMS-2. He's showing me his engine. I'm going to go ahead and chase with an S2, just in case the scythe does not secure the kill, and we got full disintegration on that target. Moving on to the next one. Radar-guided missiles at low to medium altitude are going to be our biggest threat in this thing. So we're watching out. There's a thermal, that's an S1. I'm not going to be able to climb and outrun it, so I'm going to switch to my flares, give it a quick pulse to defeat both inbound missiles. I'm going to set 50% throttle. I'm going to climb. I've got 3 hot locks coming in, so I'm going to take radar-guided missile fire any second. I'm going to go ahead and roll over, pull away. There's another thermal missile. I'm going to throttle down on the descent. pull some more flares. That helicopter got shot down before I could line up on it. I've got a convoy off to my 11 o'clock, which I do not want to fly over because he'll have ballistic air defense. I'm going to get low, throttle back up. I'm watching for more S-1 missiles to come out at close range. I'm going to be really careful about those. I'm going to fly a little evasive and throttle up to hold my momentum, but you'll see I don't want to hit my afterburner for S-1 missile risk, but I do have to keep my speed up to avoid getting targeted by ground fire. There's another IR missile. I'm going to get low, break its visuals, and I'm struggling a little bit right now to keep my airspeed up. So now I'm behind these mountains. I'm going to hit my afterburner. I'm going to accelerate, and you can watch that fuel gauge count down. It is really impressive how quickly this thing will beat a tank. You got to watch out when you use those afterburners, but check this out. I am climbing at 90 degrees. I am fully vertical, and I am accelerating into a vertical climb. I'm going to roll off my afterburner as I hit a good altitude at 5,000 meters. I'm vulnerable to high altitude attacks, so I'm going to roll back over and I'm going to start descending while I look for other opportunities. This verticality, the ability to put that hammer down, is really powerful. At this altitude, S-1 missiles are going to struggle, so I'm watching that range counter. I don't need to be on my flares right off the top because it's not likely those missiles have enough momentum to reach me. And missile 1 is down, and there goes missile 2. I'm going to throttle down and descend, get back below the higher altitude missiles. I've got a Brawler that I want to deal with before he nukes my ground forces. So as I descend, I'm going to turn into him, watching my airspeed and throttling up. I want to keep myself above 500 kilometers per hour. I don't see much reason to go faster than 1,000 kilometers per hour. He's coming right in at me, loosely notched. I'm going to put a scythe off onto him with no follow-up. Clipped his wing. I'm going to follow up on that TA-30, and I'm going to fire as I pull. He does not have enough time for the notch. Target destroyed. Those Shard corvettes have not fired on me yet, but I'm watching for it. I've got a red line indicating that I'm being actively target locked by both of those corvettes right now. I'm expecting a missile to come off, but I'm angling away. I'm flying directly away to get far out of range quickly, and if I see a missile warning pop up, then I'll quickly flip over and notch the inbound missile, and then start ladder maneuvers in case they decide to focus me down. I think after the recent update, they changed the way that these corvettes fire their missiles, and they're not just going to spam you anymore. They're going to account for the probability of an impact, and they will tend to wait now and fire on you when they're more likely to get a hit. Which makes them more dangerous because they're not going to mag dump their 45 missile magazine on you and then be completely useless until somebody resupplies them. We got an SAH-46 flying over the city. I've got the right missile for the right target. He's coming straight at me, so I'm going to get a nice clean radar lock. He's pulling for the notch. I'm going to select my S2s. He managed to notch that missile. He's turning on me. I'm going to go ahead and put one thermal off on him. Active radar lock. I'm going to get on my afterburner, switch to ECM, pulling for the notch. Jamming the incoming missile. Now I've got it jammed, I'm off the afterburner, and just that quickly I've managed to disengage from the target I was after. The S2 secured that kill according to our kill feed. So we managed to shoot down that chicane and dodge an inbound missile. That was an active radar track, so that might be another one that's coming after me. I'm going to target lock it so I can keep an eye on things. Nope, he's after another aircraft. I'll go ahead and dip down behind the mountains to break his radar lock, just in case he's got me on his priority stack. I'm watching my monitor. I've got two IRM S2s and dual 20mm autocannons to engage targets with, and it looks like we've got a Tarantula popping up over the hill. He has IRM S1 launchers. If he's looking right at me, he can fire off the bore scope a little bit. I think think it's like 15 degrees or something, so I'm being careful. I'm going to go ahead and put one into him right now. There's his flares. I'm throttling down, getting set to pre-flaring. I'm going to put another one off. Clipped him. He's got a fuel fire. And now we've got a revoker. I don't really have a choice. I have to notch those incoming missiles, which means I'm presenting myself to him in a very disadvantageous situation. Get on that afterburner. I'm going to see if he takes the bait. He's turning to engage. I'm going to pull him over the airfield where air defenses are more likely to attack him. But he needs his afterburner to catch me in this thing, which is a great advantage against another interceptor. He's veering away because he can't close for a gun kill, and I don't think he has any more missiles left. I'm going to target lock him, and then I'm going to defend against this inbound active radar missile. Jam it and get low. It's lost tracking. I'm going to hit up my afterburner. We're going a little quick, but I want to hold my momentum through this turn. We got 30% fuel remaining. Where is that revoker? He's got an Ifrit protecting him. That's 2v1, which is very unfavorable. So I don't want to go diving into that fight until at least one target is down, but it looks like I've got an allied revoker in the mix now. If he survives that missile strike, I'm going to come in and help him. That's another active radar lock. I'm already positioned for a good notch, so I'm going to take it. Throttle up to give my capacitor some power. You can see against an active radar missile, it takes almost all of your, all the top half of your capacitor, 50% charge. And remember that your capacitor below 50% charge rapidly loses effectiveness. You don't want to be eating missiles at close range. Against your radar ECM, I've got an Ifrit on me. This is a very unfavorable engagement, but I'm going to have to chance it. Afterburner on. He fired that missile way too close, and it completely overshot me. I've got my autocannon selected. This is going to have to be a gun kill, and I got to do it quickly before that revoker decides to nut up and try to cover his ally. Watching my airspeed so I don't get overpressed. Watching that gun reticle. Raked him. Clipped his wing, he spun off, target destroyed. I'm going to disengage and reevaluate the situation. That revoker is also disengaged. I've got some damage to my wing. I think that happened earlier from ground fire. All I've got are guns now. I've burned about half of my available flare reserves, which means I can't take a lot of thermal missile pressure. I'm going to stay loosely notched against that revoker, but I don't see track from his radar, which means I'm probably not his main attention right now. We've got a vortex attempting to engage the revoker with a chicane slightly to the south. If I dive in there right now, I'm going to take a bunch of fire. I'm not really very useful. This is the point where I disengage. I've got limited fuel at 16%. I've only got a couple minutes, so I really don't have the ability to participate in this fight and be effective. I'm going to pulse my afterburner, go lightly supersonic before trailing off on it. Carry some momentum through. We've got just enough fuel available to make it to the airfield and maybe do a go around. We don't really have access to our afterburner, so we are at an extreme disadvantage. You've got to watch it with the Shrike. Twin afterburners gives you tons of acceleration, but you cook a whole tank in a couple of minutes when you're fighting aggressively. And you're actually quite likely to run out of fuel if you're not paying attention. It's one of the major risks you have to account for with this aircraft, and it's the primary reason it doesn't do well as a long-range escort. You can do escort missions if you're careful with your fuel use, but you're not going to be able to fly very aggressively if you have to cross long distances, and especially if you're going to be engaged in a protracted fight. So, like with the revoker, you do need to treat your afterburner carefully. It is a tool to help you out of tight situations. It allows you to disengage very quickly when you need to. And your air brake, likewise. You've got one of the most aggressive air brakes in the game right now. If you want to play with modded aircraft, you can stop this thing so hard. It's really easy to force overshoots against unprepared pilots. Anyway, we're going to slow down, and this actually gives me a chance to talk about the landing interface. At 6.5 kilometers, you can drop your landing gear, and that triggers the landing interface. We've got a line leading up to the airfield. That's your glide slope indicator. And then off to the left-hand side, you've got 2 lines pointing into a circle. The 2 lower lines are lit. That is your angle of attack indexer. So basically what you want to do is get your vector marker lined up with that glide slope indicator, and then 2 reds indicates that you're going too fast and your glide slope is a little too aggressive. If I get the angle right, you'll see that circle turn yellow. Just barely got that in. That was a hard landing for this aircraft, but it held together. Your goal is to get that circle in the center of the indexer to turn yellow. And once your vector indicator is lined up with your glide slope line, the main thing you're going to be doing is changing your airspeed to change your angle of attack and get the nose up at the right position. That's going to change based on how heavy you are and the type of aircraft you're using. The airspeed you're going to have when you hit the ground will adjust accordingly. So go ahead and land. We'll take on supplies. We've been fully refueled. Let me check the time here. 21 minutes. That is an adequate tutorial on how to use the F-99 Shrike, so I'm going to go ahead and call it there. If you guys made it this far, you probably liked the video. Be sure to show it with a click in the right place, or you can join the channel for $1 a month. I'll catch you all later.